Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening whenever you find yourselves tuning in to this celebration. Welcome to the 2020 Staples High School High Honors Celebration. While in a dramatically different format this year, we hope that you will take some time to appreciate the hard work, dedication, and talents of the students you will hear from today. We have come together virtually to celebrate the accomplishments of 19 truly amazing young men and women. The High Honors Dinner is a long-standing tradition where families, students, and teachers come together to celebrate the top-performing students in a graduating class. While this night is a recognition of the tremendous amount of hard work, dedication, and sacrifice on the part of each senior, it is also reflecting the larger community that has had an impact on the raising and educating of each child. In a traditional high honor setting, each teacher would be sitting at a table with the family of the senior who chose them to speak on their behalf, proving that often, above all, it is the relationship that is vital to the success of education. Seniors, as you are sitting viewing this celebration, please take a moment and thank your parents, siblings, grandparents, and all those who have been your greatest supporters. They have watched firsthand the incredible work you have done to achieve this level of success. I would also imagine that they have supported every endeavor, idea, and risk you have wanted to take. Please enjoy the speeches you have ahead of you. They are a reflection not only of superior academic achievement, but also of the special talents and amazing qualities of wonderful young adults that transcend the classroom. We are here celebrating community activists, engineers, writers, and humanitarians. I hope you find these moments as extraordinary as I do. The connections that have been made will last a lifetime, and I'm sure we will continue to hear more from the students you see here. The teachers will be some of the first to know of the future success because of the mutual respect, admiration, and genuine caring that makes this event and Staples High School so special. This is truly the epitome of overall educational success. Students who have accomplished so much academically found their passions and are now on their own path to what I'm sure will be incredible future success. Enjoy.
Whenever someone mentions Miss Terrick's class, I can't help but mention how much I miss it. I could tell it wouldn't be easy from the beginning, but the challenge really made math click for me. It wasn't just that, though. It was how encouraging Ms. Terrick was. She disarmed every self-deprecating comment and never showed surprise at a surprisingly silly mistake. She was genuinely happy to help. Hers was one of the only classes where I was never afraid to ask a dumb question. Her positivity is contagious. I admire her work ethic too, whether it's in class, at Mu Alpha Theta, or making impressive GeoGebra demonstrations. And on top of that, she's always been willing to take time out of her day to give some extra help, even after I was no longer her student. It's Ms. Terrick's obvious dedication to teaching and lifting up others that gave me a chance to see how rewarding learning could be. As a student, I aspire to that. And as I enter college and make decisions on classes, majors, and my entire career, I'll be asking myself if what I'm studying is as fascinating as Ms. Terrick made high school math, and how I can make use of it with just as much compassion. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to be speaking on behalf of one of our finest students, Justin Berg. Justin is a brilliant mathematician, although admittedly, his first passion is for biology. I know this because he said, and I quote, "I want to understand just a little bit more how the world works." Well, Justin, I hate to break it to you. It is math that explains how the world works, not biology. Lucky for me, Justin knew just how math is the essence of all sciences, and that got him to be in my class for 2 years in a row. Justin has many great qualities, not the least of which is his ability to find connections and applications for mathematics in other subject areas. In fact, Justin is a musician, and I remember a lesson where we discussed using de Moivre's theorem to find the nth roots of unity. Justin was very quick to say, nth roots of unity would make a great name for my band. Well, I don't know if Justin's band was ever called the Nth Roots of Unity, but I do know that whatever band, group, or team of which Justin is a member, that band is going places. And speaking of places to go, Justin is going to the College of William and Mary, where he was recently named a STAM 1693 scholar. It's a huge feat, and they could not have picked a better scholar. To put things in perspective for you, the college has over 9,000 students and only 12 scholars. Of these 12 scholars, there are only 3 freshmen. And of these 3 freshmen, 33.33% is Justin Berg. Justin, I'm not at all surprised by your accomplishments. I wish we were together so I can shake your hand and congratulate you in person. I cannot wait to hear about the next adventure as you conduct the next part of your symphony.
Hi, I am so honored to have Mr. Delgado speaking for me. Mr. Delgado has without a doubt been the teacher who has impacted me most throughout my high school career. I truly believe that my high school experience would have been entirely different if it weren't for him. I first had him as a teacher for his freshman English class. When I was a freshman, I was shy and uncertain and definitely lacking in confidence. But he truly encouraged me and gave me the confidence to pursue the things that I am now so passionate about, including Inklings and journalism. Inklings has been the most rewarding and pivotal experience for me, and I am so grateful for all of the confidence that he has given me. I am so grateful to have had him as a teacher, mentor, and a friendly face throughout the past 4 years, and I am extraordinarily appreciative for the confidence that he has instilled within me.
When Audrey was a sophomore, she decorated my office with inspirational quotes. So I think it's only fitting that I begin this speech with a quote, even though it's normally something I wouldn't like to do. And what's more, I'm going to quote someone I never thought I would ever quote, but this is a speech about Audrey after all, so I don't have much of a choice. Taylor Swift once said, "I'm intimidated by the fear of being average." And I think it's the perfect quote to represent Audrey. I had her in class for 4 years, and I never saw her be average. And that's not to say that Audrey excels innately at everything, but what makes her so special is her desire to succeed, to learn, to improve, to be the best that she can be. For Inklings, that meant learning in design, partly at home, by herself, so she can be better with the program. It also meant taking home design layout books, so she can study award-winning spreads. It also meant asking after layout ended at 5 o'clock on a Friday if she could stay even later. It meant finding the courage to interview Principal D'Amico in front of all of Inklings when I asked her if she'd be willing to model how to give an effective interview. It meant giving up a family trip to Italy so she can come in during the summer to work on the back-to-school issue. And it meant, on a daily basis, branching out of her comfort zone to give lessons and announcements to a class of 50 students. And it also meant a few tears. Well, maybe more than a few. But every day, for 4 years, Audrey impressed me with her ability and her desire to be more than just average. I'm also going to end with a quote, but this one's by Audrey. When she was a freshman, we wrote 6-word memoirs in English class. She wrote, "Confidence is key, I'm locked out." Audrey, over these past 4 years, I've seen you find that key and open the door with it. And now that you're about to graduate, I'm confident that you're going to walk through it. And I can't wait to see all of the incredibly beyond average accomplishments that lay before you.
So over the course of my time at Staples, I've gotten asked a lot, like, what's your favorite subject? But I always responded with, it depends, because for me, it was always the teacher who made or break the class. And it was their love for the subject that inspired me to increase my own knowledge of it. And at Staples, I've been so fortunate to have so many teachers that who have made me excited about topics I never could have imagined, from 17th century text to rotational dynamics. One teacher especially made a significant impact on me with his passion for what he taught. Mr. Scrofani is probably one of the few people who could actually make me want to learn about Gauss's law. His ability to make complex subjects understandable with his vivacious teaching style made me feel like I had the world at my fingertips. That is, until I got my test back the next day, of course. But even then, his continued support and motivation kept me from being discouraged and always made me eager to learn. But he not only made class interesting, but he made it fun. Whether it was when he let us fawn over pictures of his puppy, gave us bagels on a whim, or played games of Giotto with us when all the seniors left. I would like to thank Mr. Scrofani for always making me excited to attend his class and instilling in me a love for physics that I'm sure will last throughout college and even beyond.
To me, Leah Chen is a superhero. If you think this is a strange way to describe her, consider that she crushed every academic challenge I could throw at her for 2 years, earning the top spot in both her honors physics and her AP Physics classes. She did this while leading a double life as an Olympic-level ice skater. On the first day of school during her sophomore year, Leah walked up to me after our honors physics class to let me know that relatively soon, I think mid-October, she would be missing a few weeks of school for a skating competition. She wondered if maybe I could provide her with some material for those school days. Well, realizing that I had only just barely finished copying my course syllabus, this made me feel a little bit disorganized. Should I know exactly what we'll be doing on October 15th? I am obviously inadequate. So I asked her where the competition was, and I was expecting something like New York or New Jersey, maybe Michigan, or, okay, Canada. Moscow, she replied. Oh, this is serious. And honestly, this was my very next thought. Remember that student I taught 10 years ago who was a professional race car driver while in high school? He missed a lot of days too. This is almost as cool. But here's the thing, Leah, every time you put on your cape and flew across the world to battle permafrost villains with sharp metal blades, when you came back, you just jumped right back in. There was one time in AP Physics where you missed half a unit on rotational dynamics. This was the dreaded and nefarious academic adversary, the most feared unit in the entire AP Physics course. The day you returned, we had the actual test, and you took it that day, and you crushed it. You tied for the highest score in the class. Your level of independence and focus and your commitment to high achievement is unmatched. I believe very strongly that the purpose of every school should be the high academic achievement of all students. You exemplify this. And I want you to know that while you obviously had to miss school for several weeks to travel around the world, I never really remember you being gone. Because when you were there times 2. It took me till the end of your second year in physics to discover that you had any weakness whatsoever. My realization came in June when I beat you in a game of Giotto. It was my only victory, and it was short-lived because you came back to crush me in the next round, but still, I won. Once. Leah, you have passion and integrity and discipline like no student that I've known. Balancing your athletic accomplishments with your academic ones, you do all of this while still managing to have a great time. This is superhero stuff, and you are one.
I have had so many great experiences at Staples, in and out of the classroom, thanks to the teachers and students I've met. From orchestra to STEM journal to sailing, I've found so many amazing communities. I first met Mr. Messina when, like a real nerd, I took chemistry over the summer. His class was the polar opposite of whatever you imagine summer school to be. Or maybe it was exactly what you imagine summer school to be, except with Mr. Messina fully participating in hijinks. My favorite summer chem memory involves Mr. Messina encouraging us all to skateboard down the hallways, with him going first. I continued my chemistry education last year in AP Chem. Class was never boring, with labs including iodine bombs that made us evacuate the classroom and making nitrogen gas ice cream. Mr. Messina, I hope you enjoy the silver-plated Dave & Buster's shot glass that Brianna and I made for you during our foray into mirroring. Thank you, Mr. Messina, for inspiring my love in chemistry and being a great friend. I plan to study biochemistry at Amherst College eventually.
As a teacher at Staples High School, I have the honor of teaching some of the brightest, most pleasant, and most driven young men and women in Connecticut. Some of the crazier ones of the lot, having had me for a year of Chem A or Chem Honors, actually choose me again for AP Chemistry. Nora was one of those. I suppose one might wonder, maybe Nora enrolled in AP Chem because she thought she would get Mr. Jones. No, my suspicions were confirmed when she asked me to speak on her behalf tonight. Nora is totally nuts. Of course I'm kidding. As I said before, SHS is an incubator for successful students. On occasions, there are students who not only meet the highest of marks, but truly make my job as a teacher as enjoyable as it is. Nora was an exceptional chemistry student, and as good as Nora was with understanding the ins and outs of a labyrinth of chemistry content in the AP curriculum, she was even better at contributing to a fun, healthy, and positive classroom culture. When Nora wasn't crushing an acid-based problem during class, she was crushing her classmate Sam Laskin. What I mean is, crushing his take on some political conversation that carried over from their We the People class. Even when arguing a point, she always seemed to be having a good time. And that good time vibe was contagious, and it was a large part of what made that particular class so great. Nora has a bright future and will go on to great things. Last we spoke on the topic, medicine was high on the list of possible future pursuits. I think I'm right about that, or perhaps that's just my wish and desire for always wanting to call her Doctor. Wherever her path takes her, there is no doubt that Nora will be as successful in college and beyond as she was in high school. And I'd like to personally congratulate Nora and the entire Doctor family on this massive achievement. I'm proud of you, Nora.
Hi everyone, I'm Brianna Dwyer, and today I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Shepro to speak on my behalf. Better known to me as Coach Shepro, I've gotten to know him over the past 4 years as both a teacher and a coach. If there's one thing I learned about Shep, it's that he values the meaning of working together as a team more than anything else. But a win was good too. His undeniable dedication to fostering a sense of camaraderie is what made my team feel like a family and the gym a home. Most importantly, he always believed in us to work our hardest and to never give up, which for me, I took to heart both on the court and in the classroom. I would also like to think that the many laughs we shared will forever impact me as a person. Whether it was watching him always try trick shots with a dull expo marker in the classroom, or forcing him to sing to Queen in our pep rally dance, he showed me what "Don't Stop Me Now" truly means and to always persevere. Both a coach, an AP economic teacher, and a mentor, I'll forever be thankful to Shep for helping me grow as a player, a student, and most importantly, a person. Thank you.
I'm so proud of Brianna. This High Honors Award is an amazing accomplishment for 12 years of hard work. Brianna has proven my own very amateur theories about what makes an accomplished student. Bri has shown that to focus on one thing, academics for example, does a disservice to the whole person. It's similar to a young kid focusing on one sport when science has shown the ability to participate in multiple sports improves the skills in all of them. Bri's ability to be the most well-rounded student has paid incredible dividends. You see, Brianna is so humble that she hides her academic achievements behind her charity. And she hides her charity behind her leadership. She hides her leadership behind her athleticism, and she hides her athleticism behind her kindness. You would never know one if you only looked at the other, and Brianna wouldn't have it any other way. For the 4 years I have known Bri, she was one of the most friendly student athletes I've ever known. In volleyball, just as Bri was taken under the wing of older players, she helped every younger player on our team. She went out of her way to accept everyone, and like a true friend, everyone knew they could confide in Brianna. Athletically, Bri plays golf and volleyball, two sports she knew little about before she started playing. Naturally, Bri made the varsity volleyball team as a sophomore and claims, without any evidence whatsoever, that she can beat me at golf. Most notable, Brianna was voted captain in both sports. Brianna's contributions to her community are also noteworthy. Just one example was planning with her fellow captains our charity volleyball game benefiting Rach's Hope. Academically, I would discover in my AP economics class, Bri excelled. Her curiosity, abstract thinking, and meticulous work ethic brought her to the top of the class. Most importantly, Brianna positively contributed to the classroom. In this age, when school has focused on connecting with others, sharing experiences, and contributing to the community, Brianna was the exemplar. Bri understands that her intelligence, kindness, and athleticism are attributes that should be shared with others. For Brianna, athletics in school was not a competition to be better than others, but an opportunity to improve herself and others, to make the whole better. Using her own attributes, Bree worked to improve the group, team, and community. In my opinion, what this world needs is more of a shared experience, more community involvement, more working together rather than working apart. We need more friends. What this world needs is more young people like Brianna.
This past year, I had the pleasure of taking AP Physics C with Mr. Scrofani. To best describe this class, I will use a pendulum, a device that was frequently used in many of the class's interesting and challenging problems. I say physics with Mr. Scrofani was a pendulum because the class could easily swing from an interesting lecture to a thrilling laboratory experiment and back to an interesting lecture within the span of one period, and no pun intended. Explaining a complicated topic in simple terms is one of the hardest and most important things a teacher can do. A teacher must place simple stepping stones to create a path from ignorance to understanding. The way Mr. Scrofani combined illustrative diagrams, analogies, math, and intuition, I would call him a stonemason. The way Mr. Scrofani diligently answered each question provided great clarity to the class. This clarity demystified physics and gave me a deeper appreciation for the subject. My fondest memories of AP Physics C were the tangential and spontaneous moments, and I think it was admirable how Mr. Scrofani encouraged this spontaneity. No existential question or impromptu experiment was off limits. I remember spending an entire period discussing with Mr. Scrofani and a few other classmates questions like, why is the universe here? What is the purpose of human existence? And why do we find things beautiful? While not directly applicable to the lab at hand, I think these questions were extremely valuable. Apart from being interesting, these discussions illuminated some of the questions real physicists are trying to solve. And it is these questions that I will keep in mind for the rest of my physics career. Thank you all very much.
Have you considered the prospect that the flow of time might be an illusion? Or, at the very least, that it's not continuous? Like, would we even know it if time itself froze right now and then started back up again later? Have you contemplated the probability of life having evolved, given the universe's inevitable progression from order to disorder, also known as the second law of thermodynamics? Do you ever wonder about the need for a conscious observer to collapse the quantum mechanical wave function in order to give meaning to physical reality? Well, Tyler Edwards has. This makes him one of the most interesting and interested students I've ever taught in AP Physics, with a sense of wonder and curiosity that is far more developed than his chronological age. His interest in and understanding of physics are unsurpassed. Really good physics students understand mathematical ideas. They can solve tough problems and score A's on exams. Great students do all of that and then add an appreciation for those theories. They ponder why we are able to describe nature with our mathematical models in the first place. And they solve problems in unique ways. Tyler is one of these few, rare, great students. He's not only great at contemplation, he's also great at execution. Now, maybe that sounds a little strange, but I use the word intentionally because Tyler is an exceptional computer programmer, and programs are executed. The first time I met him a few years ago, he led a student team in a codeathon at Staples. His work then, as a sophomore, was super impressive. He has just continued to grow. I fully expect to someday read about Edwards' theory of metacognitive, artificially generated quantum computer intelligences. In between contemplating string theory, musing over humanity's place in the cosmos, and constructing machine learning algorithms, Tyler asked the kinds of key, summative questions in class that helped to solidify everyone's understanding of whatever it was that we were studying. He explained concepts to his classmates with incredible depth and incredible clarity. He smiled and laughed a lot too. And he inadvertently generated a second version of the answer key for every one of my exams. Tyler, You don't know this, but I always graded your test first to make sure that I hadn't made any mistakes when I wrote the solutions. I did that until January, and then I graded your test last so I would feel good after grading 25 second semester seniors exams. Tyler, you are deep, you are powerful, and you are awesome.
The teacher that impacted my academic career the most is definitely Mr. Messina. Mr. Messina inspired my interest in chemistry and my desire to pursue it as a major and even as a career. In AP Chem, he was able to break down complicated problems into tangible ideas and principles that I could work with, and I learned through learning that way that I enjoyed working with those principles and working with those ideas. But aside from helping me find a love of chemistry, he helped me grow as a student. I was leaving extra help one day, and I mentioned him that I was applying for this summer research internship, and he immediately assured me, oh, if you need a letter of recommendation, anything, let me know. I'd be happy to help, happy to write one. And that stuck with me, because I hadn't really had a teacher like that who was just so enthusiastic about my academic pursuits, who was eager to help and provide support in any way that he could. And knowing that I had support like that from Mr. Messina, I learned to push myself as a student both in and out of AP Chem. So thank you, Mr. Messina.
Today we are celebrating the achievements of the top performing seniors at Staples High School. As a teacher in Westport, I am blessed to be teaching some of the most pleasant, talented, gracious, and driven students with whom I've ever been acquainted. Every once in a while, however, a student comes along and surpasses all expectations. That's precisely what happened in fall 2018 when Charlie was in my classroom. Of all the traits I used to describe my Westport students, he has all of them. He's a pleasure in class, he's got a natural talent for the physical sciences, and he's one of the most driven students I've ever had. Charlie's dominance of AP Chemistry never really wavered all year long. He was the first to ask the kinds of questions in class that would deepen the discussion. His mastery of every unit was constant and consistent. He often visited during my office hours, and his inquiries often went beyond the AP curriculum. He was just fascinated with how the world worked. Our conversations usually were focused on chemistry content. However, we would also venture into conversations about the research he was conducting at Yale University or the really good horror movie he just saw. Charlie had so many great qualities, but if I could point my finger at one in particular, it would be his leadership ability. In the lab, he was always on task and always on point. His hands-on technique was the best in class, so much so that when I wanted to make sure our lab was working correctly, I was satisfied if Charlie and Hunter's group was getting the correct data. There is no doubt that Charlie will be successful in college as he was in high school. I am proud of the student that he was and the young man that he has become. I'd like to be the first to say congratulations to Charlie and the entire Effman family on this tremendous achievement.
Mr. Jones is a physics and chemistry teacher at Staples, and I chose him to speak on my behalf because of the impact he was able to have in my life my junior year. Going into my junior year AP Chemistry class, I was your classic nervous overstudier and overthinker. I had an excessive fear of failure, and I was way too fixated on the grades. I wasn't as concerned with understanding the actual material. Being your grade-concerned junior, I frequented Mr. Jones's office hours for questions. Through there, I got to know him a lot better. I began to admire how he taught the class in a very efficient yet calm way, and I also wanted to emulate how he handled an uncertain situation with a very calculated mindset. Through this, Mr. Jones also got to know me a lot better. He realized how unsustainable my ways of studying were, and he vowed to help me change them throughout the year. This process began with me cramming outside of the class. He would remind me that I was in a good place with the material, and he would remind me that it was time to calm down. During the actual test, if I had a difficult question, Mr. Jones would remind me that if I stayed calm, I would be able to solve it. I'd say a major turning point for me came right before the AP Chemistry final, when I chose to get snacks with my friends instead of overstudy. When Mr. Jones saw my friends and I laughing in the hallway, it was then that he knew the impact that he had on me, turning one of the biggest overstudiers into a calm and collected student. I also had the privilege of working at the same testing company as Mr. Jones this year. He was able to see me tackle a much harder course load with a very calm and efficient manner. I am very grateful for the impact he was able to have on me in regards to uncertainty as well. I think this is especially helpful with the COVID-19 pandemic.
In the end, I'm confident that he will have a lasting impact on me.
I'm delighted and honored to have been asked by the incomparable Miss Kate Enquist to speak on her behalf today. Not too long ago, a friend of mine hired a student assistant for his company. And when I saw the hire he'd made, I couldn't believe it. The hire was just terrible. I was like, you hired Harrison? Just kidding, Harrison. But the hire my friend made really was terrible. I saw this after meeting the kid for about 30 seconds. And I said to my friend, listen, what you need is someone mature, someone honest, someone dependable, someone whip smart. You need a real go-getter. What you need is a Kate. In fact, if there are any business owners listening today, then listen to me. When the time comes, you need a Kate. I need a Kate. We all need a Kate. Kate is not satisfied until she understands something fully and completely. She's the first person to arrive at class every day. Kate was always the first to do all of her work. She's the first person to arrive at school every morning. In fact, during this time of quarantine, I've missed Kate so much, so I came up with a plan. I've asked my own 2 children to take turns waiting outside the door to my home office every morning at 6:50 a.m. And when I walk by, they say, "Good morning, Mr. Jones." Surprise, surprise. I have a few questions. It's still not the same thing, though. One of my favorite memories about Kate isn't from class. It's from her senior year. Kate sent me an email complaining that her classes weren't hard enough, that she wasn't learning as much as she could be, and that she wished she had more tests, that more of her grades should be based on tests. Kate, I'm not going to lie, I teared up a little bit when I read that. But, okay, well, maybe that's a little over the top, but I knew I'd really found a kindred spirit, someone who really likes learning and demonstrating that they know what they've learned. Kate, you're so good at that. Kate, there's no way on earth that you won't be a star student or an MD or a PhD or an MBA. I don't know what you're going to do, but it could be anything. You represent a truly astounding confluence of character, ability, and drive, and there are great things ahead for you, I'm sure. I'm honored that you asked me to speak for you, and I wish I could be seeing you in person. So stay in touch.
When I came into chemistry my sophomore year, I wanted to be a pediatric heart surgeon, and biology was literally life. I came into chemistry proud of my memorization skills, but through Chem Honors and subsequently AP Chem, Mr. Messina didn't just teach me to memorize Avogadro's number, redox reactions, and the titration curve of a buffer. He showed me that learning was dynamic. We spent hours in the Learning Center building molecular models, made silver flasks with silver nitrate, and set off countless explosions. And as time went on, I began to have the same light in my eyes that Mr. Messina did on the first day of Chem when he looked at the board. Challenge isn't scary, it's exciting. I found success at Staples and beyond because of my tendency to always challenge myself. But that fearlessness began in chemistry. I'm going to miss dodgeball matches and bringing jerk chicken to the potlucks, but I'm thankful and proud to be Mr. Messina's chemistry alum.
Westport has afforded me the opportunity to work with a few really great students in my career. Many of them have left their mark on me as a teacher and as a person. I feel privileged to speak on behalf of a young lady who has probably made more of an impression on me than I made on her. I met Natasha on the first day of school in fall of 2017 when she was a sophomore in my honors chemistry class. Now, I love all of my classes, but that period 8 honors class that year had some unique personalities. It was one of those classes that I could honestly say I looked forward to going to every day. So it was the second week of school, and at the end of class one day, then Natasha comes up to me and says, "So, I have the opportunity to go to France with my dad on a business trip, and yeah, so I'm going. Can you give me the work that we'll be doing in class so I could keep up?" And then she used the giggle that she uses when she's in an awkward situation. I did not know her yet, so I thought to myself, uh-oh, this is not good. But I sent her the work and she went on her trip. To my surprise, on her first day back, she came to the Math Science Learning Center where I was on duty with all of the work that she had done and the questions that she had for me. And anybody that knows Natasha knows that she has a knack for asking lots of questions. She had the material down pat. Her questions were more like reaffirmations. The rest of the school year, I was astonished by her work ethic. She was always first, well, the second person to finish the unit packets. Shout out to Kate Enquist, who takes first honors for that, and tied for first, yes, with Kate, to meet with me in the Learning Center to review. She was always on top of her game, even with the busy cross-country schedule that she had. So Natasha breezed through that year, and she decided to take AP Chemistry as a junior. I was thrilled to learn that I had her again. The year started similarly. Natasha crushing tests, asking lots of questions, more awkward giggles. This time, Natasha waited till the 4th week of school to go to France for a week. Progress there. It was during this year that Natasha left her mark on me. Junior year is especially challenging year for high school students. Natasha hit a few bumps in the road. She was faced with a brutal schedule at the end of April, a We the People contest in Washington, D.C., the week before finals, and AP tests. It was the first time I ever saw Natasha waver. She was having a bit of a hard go at it, so she came to my office. She decided to, in her own words, put her well-being first, and if my grade suffers for it, then so be it. She said, I have to put my health, sleep, and peace first. Now this was T-minus 7 days to her AP test and chemistry final exam. I was worried about her for sure, but I was also extremely proud of her. She had come to the realization that she needs to de-stress, and she executed a plan to accomplish that, even in the high-stakes situation that she was in. Natasha had the maturity and self-awareness to realize her limits. Natasha understood the importance of self-care and self-advocacy, and this is a trait that not enough people, all people, teens and adults, myself included, have. Natasha taught me the significance of how taking a small time out of life can have. With support from her parents, teachers, and counselors, she was able to recollect herself and finish the year strong. How strong? Well, we're still talking about Natasha here, so she ended up just fine. As a matter of fact, when I started writing this speech, I was under the impression she was going to Yale. However, she updated me that UPenn's Wharton School of Business is her ultimate destination. Imagine that. That is just one of the many things I learned from Natasha. Of less significance, she taught me that giggling in awkward situations is fun. She also gave me her mom's recipe for spicy jerk pork, which I still use to this day. To everyone watching this speech right now, if you have never grilled chicken wings on the barbecue before, I strongly suggest you try it. I learned that from Natasha too. I could never have imagined one of my students would have a profound influence on me, but that's exactly what happened during the 2 years I taught Natasha. I would like to be the first to congratulate Natasha and the entire Johnson family for this tremendous achievement.
So I hope all of you are hanging in there with quarantine and are able to manage the boredom recently. And I wanted to introduce one of my teachers, Mrs. McGoldrick. I had her my junior year. And I know that over my 4 years at Staples, I've been spoiled to have some of the best teachers imaginable, and each of them instilled me with unique lessons and taught me something valuable that I'll be able to remember for the rest of my life. And I'll definitely remember that Staples as a positive community and a transformative experience. The best teachers, though, are the ones that don't just teach you something that you're going to study and learn for the tests that you take on Friday morning, but instead they're the teachers that teach you valuable, powerful lessons that you're going to remember for the next 20 years of your life and will be able to apply down the line. And I think Mrs. McGoldrick is definitely one of those teachers. I had her my junior year in AP Lang, and going into the year, I was so scared. I'd heard Lang was the most challenging class at Staples, and I was pretty scared. And then I found out that I had Mrs. McGoldrick, and her reputation, I'd always heard she was one of the most challenging teachers. So not only was I taking the most challenging class, but I had one of the most challenging teachers. So I was pretty scared for that. But people were right. It was a very difficult class, but what they didn't mention was how much I would learn from it. The class completely reshaped my way of thinking. Before taking it, I looked at the world just very as it was, and I saw the world in school as something like homework. You'd be given it, and it would just be a barrier that was keeping you from doing the things outside of school. But instead, through my time with Mrs. McGoldrick, she taught me that homework was something that was valuable, and I think that only happened because we did so much of it. We had 2 to 5 sometimes up to like 10-page readings every night. And the next day in class, we would have a test on it. And not more like a quiz, but still, it was scary for me because I was very grades oriented and I wanted to do well and have a good GPA. But Mrs. McGoldrick taught me that there was more to it than just that. And she was always available outside of class, and I'd meet with her, and she was always there, and she would go all the way out of her way, and she was so invested in the success of her students. And outside of just looking at the world in a different way and looking at the world in a more analytical way, she taught me the values of accountability. And these quizzes and everything that she did taught me that you would do things not just because you had to do them to get them out of the way, but instead she taught me that everything you do has an outcome, and that outcome is directly correlated to what you're going to do in life, and everything is there for a reason. Yeah. So Mrs. McGoldrick taught me the value of doing homework as a teaching tool, and everything she did and all of her great anecdotes and funny stories helped to instill a valuable teaching experience. And for that, I'd like to thank Ms. McGoldrick for everything she's taught me and for all of the work that she put into the success of her students and the betterment of the Staples community.
Hello, I'm speaking for Eddie Kiev today. Hi, Eddie. We wish that you could enjoy the traditional graduation activities, but we're living through singular times, and you are a unique and special class. We're in the middle of a story, and we're not sure of the ending, but we know that when times are uncertain, the very qualities that you've developed and honed as students will serve you. In Oprah's commencement speech, she notes, "Never has a graduating class been called to step into the future with more purpose, vision, passion, energy, and hope." It so happens that these are the very qualities that Eddie demonstrated throughout his year with me in AP Lang. We work hard in AP Lang. Despite homework assignments that at times might have seemed endless and initial grades that were probably alarming, Eddie remained buoyant. Regardless of the day, time, or task, he consistently lit up the room with his smile and his enthusiasm. He set out to master the grueling 40-minute timed write, and with determination and diligence, he did. Eddie also embraced the questions of the course. He genuinely enjoyed learning, and his joy was contagious. I remember Eddie as the speaker of his Lang class. Some of the questions in the course were quite challenging. In my mind's eye, I visualize a question posed, a question that brings a hush to the room, and then I see a hand waving boldly in the air, and the hand is Eddie's. Sometimes the answer is sound, accurate, and precise. Remember these words, Eddie? And that's good. But sometimes the answer is a bit inaccurate or unsound. And that's good as well, or maybe even better. More important than offering the correct answer is the willingness to grapple with the questions and the willingness to try when you're not sure you're right. Eddie was consistently willing to take these risks, and in my opinion, this is one of the most valuable attributes for learning and living. Your class has had the unique experience of receiving advice from notable figures such as Obama and Tom Hanks. I think that it's appropriate that I turn to our AP Lang writers to assist me in offering some reminders as you move on to college. Follow your passion. Thoreau claims if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with success unexpected in common hours. Continue to work hard. According to Samuel Johnson, few things are impossible to diligence and skill. Great works are performed not by strength, but by perseverance. But don't work too hard. Take time for joy. E.B. White observes, "I arise in the morning torn between a desire to improve the world and a desire to enjoy the world. This makes it hard to plan the day." He also advises us to always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. White says, "A mistake is simply another way of doing things." And his co-author, William Strunk, exhorts, "If you don't know how to pronounce a word, say it loud." And last but not least, J.R.R. Tolkien reminds us to never laugh at live dragons. He's not an author from our class, but it's a helpful piece of advice nonetheless. It was truly a pleasure to work with you, Eddie. In a time of uncertainty, I am certain of your sense of purpose, passion, energy, and hope. I congratulate you on your accomplishments here at Staples, and I wish you much joy on your journey.
I've asked Mr. David Roth, my theater teacher and the director of Staples Players, to speak for me at this event. Mr. Roth has been an amazing mentor for me and has led Staples Players through 4 crazy years that have really changed my life. Theater has had a profound impact on my personal character, not to mention the many characters that I was privileged to portray on stage. Mr. Roth has great expectations and very high standards, and it was through constantly striving to meet those expectations and standards that I developed resilience, determination, and trust in both myself and my fellow actors. I may not have been cast in every show or gotten every role I wanted, but I learned that the success of any production rests on far more than a couple individual performances. For 4 years, I got to be part of and help lead an incredible community. I was thereby able to carry on the legacy of those who came before me. I've developed an appreciation for both the theatrical and the technical elements of theater, and I've grown tremendously as an actor and as a person. Mr. Roth has been alongside me every step of the way, and for that, I thank him.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Roth, and I teach theater at Staples, along with running Staples Players. I'm sure all like the rest of you, this is my first virtual awards ceremony. I am so sorry not to be able to give this speech to my student, Sam Laskin, and his family in person, but I am so honored to be asked to speak on Sam's behalf. What a well-deserved achievement this is for Sam. Many congratulations to you on your years of hard work that have brought you to this place. I get to speak about Sam from a unique perspective. I know that many of the teachers watching tonight and all of the students too will have been in an academic classroom with Sam. From that, I'm sure that you know about his tenacity and inquisitiveness and drive that placed him on the competitive list for high honors. However, I get to know a side of Sam that loves obscure musical theater facts, marvels at his fellow players' high notes, and cheers on his friends at competitive auditions for any given show. For those of you who don't know, Sam is the president of Staples Players, an organization of over 100 students. This is a job that Sam takes very, very seriously, as if he were a representative in the Senate or in the House of Representatives. Sam's constituents are always his first priority. The needs of his fellow players always seem to be front and foremost in his mind. I knew this throughout his time in Players, but Sam's leadership skills came truly into focus as we faced the closure of school and the cancellation of our winter musical, Sam and his fellow seniors' final main stage show at Staples. This cancellation of this show and of much of the festivities surrounding the end of the senior year was a devastating blow to everyone. I know that for Sam himself, it was an incredibly disappointing and sad thing. However, like a true leader, Sam stepped up. He grieved his loss, but knew as president and as the representative of his friends in the organization, it was his job to jump in and move forward. Sam has thrown himself into every aspect of our post-quarantine Players. From helping to raise funds to cover our costs, to being a shoulder for his friends to lean on. From communicating the needs of the students to adult leadership to answering all of my questions about streaming technology. I have leaned on Sam like a colleague in the past 8 weeks. I have a huge amount of respect for the way that he has conducted himself throughout this difficult time. Even when he would appear in our Google Meets transformed into a pickle or a potato with an on-screen filter, as he often would. I have no doubt in my mind Sam will use these skills as he continues in his life. When he faces a challenge, Sam will have this time to look back on and know that he was able to move past his disappointments and continue forward to help create great things. Thank you to Sam for being a wonderful example of what leadership is, to his fellow students and to the adults in his life alike. I have always respected you as a student, Sam. But I have recently gained tremendous respect for you also as a colleague. And I know that in the future, I will always think think of you as a friend. Congratulations, Sam.
I first met Ms. Tarek in what I believe to be the most beautiful classroom in Staples. It's the corner classroom on the 3rd floor with almost floor-to-ceiling windows covering 2 entire walls. These windows gave my class front row seats to whatever performance the great outdoors decided to put on that day. An unpredicted flurry of snow, a calming pitter-patter of rain, a beautiful clear blue sky, or, and everyone's favorite, I'm sure, the ear-piercing shrieks of reversing school buses at the end of the day. Despite all these immense distractions, however, Ms. Tarek was still able to captivate the attention of the class and make learning the fundamental theorem of calculus far more exciting than a powerful gust of wind turning the surrounding trees into maracas. But not only did Ms. Tarek teach me calculus, she taught me so much more. Through her structured packets, which I now have a pristine, numerically ordered collection of due to 2 years in her class, she taught me the importance of organization. She taught me resilience by showing me how to bounce back from failure and understand things that previously seemed impossible. She taught me confidence by helping me understand that I already have all the tools and skills I need to face life's daunting challenges, like problems involving series, for example. But above all, she acted as a role model on simply how to be a good person. She was incredibly understanding, and she was patient, she was helpful, and she was kind. So thank you, Ms. Tarek, for not only renewing my love for math, but for inspiring me to grow and to learn. I'll miss your pie-rich shirt that only gets broken out twice every year, and most importantly, I'll miss you.
Hello, everyone. It is my honor to be addressing you, this time on behalf of Anella Lefebvre. I have been so fortunate to have Anella in my class for 2 years back to back. During these 2 years, she earned and maintained her spot at the top. So you can imagine my surprise when Anella told me that up until last year, she didn't really like math. Well, Anella, speaking on behalf of all math teachers out there, truly I tell you, we wish that all students disliked math the way you dislike math. I do know, however, that we've had great times this year and last. And yes, I got you to admit that you actually loved calculus, except for series. A sentiment I'm sure is felt by almost every AP Calculus student out there and a significant subset of their teachers. So how is it that someone who's not a big fan of mathematics can be a superstar in mathematics? I'll tell you how. What others saw as an obstacle, you saw as a stepping stone, and you continued to stride down the path. When others were looking for shortcuts, you chose the road less traveled because you knew deep down that the journey was just as important as reaching the destination. And while many people were dreaming of accomplishing big things, you have been awake tirelessly making them happen. Just as any good rower knows, you knew that you needed a clear view of the target, but an easy hand on the steering. Your flexibility allowed you to gain and retain more knowledge. You knew exactly when to battle through and when to let it glide. I am so proud of what you've been able to accomplish in the 2 short years that I've known you. I know without a doubt that your attitude will enable you to meet all of the challenges that face you. So remember, your continued success is a series from today to infinity of many small concerted efforts taken over time. May they converge in your biggest dream becoming a reality.
Hi, my name is Idan Leshem, and I've chosen Mr. Messina to represent me for this award. I've known Mr. Messina for the past 3 years, as he was my sophomore chemistry teacher and my teacher last year for AP Chemistry. Mr. Messina's support and guidance through these past 3 years, as well as his passion for education and science, have helped cultivate my passion for science, which is something that I will continue to expand upon in college. Mr. Messina has always been a source of encouragement for me, someone who has always pushed me beyond my comfort zone, who has helped me become the student and the person I am today. I remember how Mr. Messina would always find ways to make his lessons interactive and engaging. whether it was using Starburst candies and toothpicks to model different molecules, or him using baking soda to clean up after the acid I spilt during our numerous titration labs. Mr. Messina has become a mentor for me throughout my high school experience, someone who has challenged me to discover, grow, and explore, not only as a student, but also as a person. For that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you so much.
In my 7 years of teaching at Staples High School, I've taught many brilliant young men and women. Most were motivated, ambitious, resilient. A smaller portion of those combined all of those traits and with a dose of charisma. Idan is one of those. The incredible part is that those aren't even his best traits. In all of those 7 years, I've never encountered a young man as kind, courteous, and compassionate as Idan. I met Idan when he was a sophomore in my honors chemistry class. He was a standout student, no doubt, but he was a bit quiet and reserved. It wasn't until the next year in AP Chemistry that I really got to know Idan. The challenge of the AP level was one of the reasons we became closer. He often found his way into my office before school or during office hours. Idan has a knack for the physical sciences. Well, I suppose since this is the virtual high honors dinner, he has a knack for all the other subjects too. He was extremely successful in class, but he was so humble about his successes. I vividly remember handing tests back one day in class. Idan, as usual, did fine. Most likely better than fine. It was another student that was on my radar that day. I knew this particular student was going to be down on herself after a poor test grade. I handed the test back and I saw her face drop when she looked at the grade. She was clearly upset. Then I saw Idan make a comment to her, and her facial expression completely changed. She quickly wiped away the tears that started forming and began smiling again. That was powerful, and it was something that stuck with me to this day. Little did I know what Idan whispered to her was the make and model of my car and where I park. And she wiped away her tears because she was now focused on exacting vengeance. I'm just kidding. Idan is a fun-loving kid. I don't know his twin brother, Alan, but if he's anything like Idan, the world is truly best to have two amazing young men just starting on their journey through life. Idan, I say to you, good luck on your ventures. I wish you all the success at WashU and beyond. To the entire Leshem squad, congratulations on this enormous achievement.
Hi everyone, congrats on high honors. The teacher I have chosen to speak on my behalf is Ms. Tarek. To have academic success requires a combination of many different factors. To me, a supportive and encouraging teacher who pushes their students to want to learn and do their best is the most important. Ms. Tarek embodies these qualities. Her belief in me drove me to have confidence in myself. Ms. Tarek showed up to class every day with a smile on her face and strove to make every class interesting, including TED-Ed riddles that drove us crazy. It was clear that she cared about us not only as students but as people. Although she was my teacher sophomore year, this undying support has stayed with me throughout my entire high school career, and I'm so happy to be able to thank her for that now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It is my honor to be addressing you again today, this time on behalf of another one of our students, Aiden Moskowitz. Any teacher who knows Aiden knows that she's a young woman with few words. So in her honor, I will be a woman with few words. And with that, this speech is done. All kidding aside, Aiden may be a quiet person, but as I got to know her, I quickly realized that she's a fierce, relentless competitor in the classroom. And just like on the softball field, she will always do her absolute best to win the game. Aiden, like in softball, life will probably throw many curveballs at you from all directions. However, I know you well enough to say that your character and your education are your bat, and you are ready to swing back. You have always stepped up to the plate, and I know this because I've been watching you from the bleachers for the past 3 years since the day I met you. You never let the fear of striking out hold you back from being the best teammate and leader you can possibly be. So Aiden, as we embrace the blur of what this year end is shaping up to be, I look at you and one thing is clear. You are a bright star in the life of those around you. I wish you all the best as you start the next chapter of your story at the University of Virginia. And while I'm saddened that I will not get to see your face every day in our hallways, I am filled with joy that we are sending one of our finest out to the world. So Aiden, swing for the fences.
I've never felt as welcomed as I did on my first day in Italian 1 with Prof. Noonan. The room was filled with Italian decorations, music played on her speaker, and she greeted me and my classmates with her excited and energetic tone, trying right away to get to know each of us as we walked in. Of course, none of us had even the slightest idea what she was saying since she spoke in nothing but Italian. But it sounded friendly, so we went with it. And while my skills in Italian have changed drastically, Prof. Noonan's warm, inspiring, and encouraging personality continues to shine the same way it always has since that first day. I distinctly remember finding an envelope addressed to me in my mailbox one afternoon. Upon reading it, I found that Prof. Noonan had sent me a handwritten letter congratulating me on my hard work and achievements within the class. I never knew a teacher would care this much for her students. Yet she does. All the time. She truly wants me and everyone she meets to succeed, and she'll do anything she can to help. Prof has been my Italian teacher for 3 years, and for that, I'm incredibly lucky. I know that all she has taught me, a language, a culture, a way of life, I will always have with me. So Prof. Noonan, grazie.
The people who make the world work. In 35 years, a lot of students have passed my way, but in Max Pace, I found one of the rarest, one of the people who make the world work. Let me explain. Students like Max, with a wide swath of accomplishments across many disciplines, are the people whose later designs engineer our world. Max's impact here at Staples probably represents only a small amount of everything that he does. He wasn't just a member of the Sikorsky STEM Challenge Club, he was the president of this competitive engineering club. Not to be repetitious, but he was also the president of the Coding Club. He's achieved membership in the Società Onoraria Italica, the Italian National Honor Society. He received the Dartmouth Book Award and the Connecticut Society of Women Engineers Award. Max's We the People team placed first in the state and fifth in the nation in the Civic Education Challenge. But let's not pigeonhole Max as being successful only in the classroom. He was a swinging trombonist in the jazz and pep bands, and his golf swing powered the Staples golf team and the Nike golf camp where he served as an instructor. Max shared his talent with others, tutoring in association with Top Hat Tutors. Max's use of technology did not spare the funny bone. His first year in Italian, he had his dog lip-syncing in Italian. Max's subsequent masterpieces always included a bit of whimsy to make his audience smile. In the second year, his Swedish uncle carried on in his native tongue, but not to worry, Max supplied subtitles in Italian. Behind every great student, there are great parents. Being the parent of Max couldn't have been that easy. There must have been many nights spent telling him to turn the light off and leave that project for another day. Max, thank you for making Italian work. Thank you for making Staples work. Now it's time for you to move on, but tonight is for celebrating all of your accomplishments. Tomorrow, a new world beckons at Cornell and beyond, and Max, all of us can't wait to see how you'll make it work.
Mr. Shammerg and I developed quite a relationship in the 2 years we spent together. I first had him as a government teacher in my junior year. For that year, I believe he was imperative in helping me grow as a person and as a student. I reshaped my views with things that we debated. I always liked that he kept an open mind and he told things from both sides of the spectrum, something that was hard to find these days. But he also helped change the way I began to see things in life. After learning about Supreme Court cases, my rights as a human, and the way our government works, I altered my moral intuitions and even some of my values. Perhaps my favorite project that year was when we read How Democratic is the U.S. Constitution. I enjoyed this project because I liked having a one-on-one conversation with a teacher while also being assessed under pressure. In my junior year, I certainly grew as a person, and I hoped to continue this into my last year. Luckily, I got Mr. Schamberg again, this time for economics. This senior year, I felt I was more rounded as a person, and coupled with learning, I began to challenge and ask even more questions. I challenged economic beliefs, in a respectful manner, of course, but I also continued to ask questions and broaden my perspective with the help of my incredible teacher. My favorite thing this year was learning about the Fed and how they influence interest rates in order to stimulate the economy, as I thought it related strongly to current events. But perhaps my favorite thing about Mr. Schamberg are three things that I believe are almost intangible. He gave me things to think about and ask beyond the classroom. He strengthened my understanding that nothing is easy and taken for granted. And, most importantly, he gave me a passport into the future by preparing me for what is left to come. Thank you.
Patricio Perez Alurze Arce has been kicked out of the social studies department at least 4 times. 4 by me, but only because he refuses to take no for an answer. Patricio is blessed by his strong will and natural intelligence. Now, typically students have one or the other. They have to grind through the material, incurring sleepless nights, or they sit in the back, watch the teacher do their thing, and ace the test. He does both. He studies through a microscope, trying to uncover the smallest parts of the material he may not master. His attention to detail doesn't make him uptight. He's somehow equally mellow and a gunner. Patricio has a vibe like he's on a corporate retreat with Goldman Sachs. He strolls into school right before the bell, rocking Vineyard Vines everything or the occasional logo wear from a private institution fresh off the dad racks. Patricio has older, high-achieving brothers, but you never accuse him of trying to live under someone else's shadow. Like all things with him, he has a very unique balance. He owns a certain expectation that he, or perhaps he and his family, have owned. For most students, his goals would seem lofty. Get into Yale, maybe get a corner office at the aforementioned firm. But even with these goals, he isn't anxious about his future, and he never compares himself to others, even his brothers. He's an incredibly adept at selecting what is important. He's comfortable forming bonds with faculty. And over the last 2 years, I've seen him peel away at all of his weaknesses. Patricio has grown to be a highly likable person, one apt to smile, ask questions, participate, and exude contagious energy. He single-handedly made his econ class one that I look forward to all day, every day. He's an asset in class. He'll do well at Yale next year, and I think he's a shoo-in for Skull and Bones. Patricio, you're an amazing young man. You're one of the best students I've ever taught, and certainly one of the coolest smart kids I've ever come across. Congratulations on this achievement. Godspeed.
Hi, I'm Benji Schausheim, and I'm really into jazz. What I like about it so much is this thing called improvisation, where you make up what you're playing on the spot without written music. I always thought that reading sheet music as opposed to improvising was like reading a book as opposed to talking, where when you improvise, you're creating something nobody in history has ever heard before. You're leaving your mark. Going into my We the People class in junior year, I thought it wasn't for me. I thought of myself as a STEM kid, and I thought that political science just threw in the word science to make itself sound cool. But what Mrs. Cameraman taught me is that history and government can be a lot like improvising. Cam wouldn't just teach us material in class. To give you a small example, she would set up camp at Panera for entire days straight, coaching us on how to prepare for the We the People competitions. Because of Cam, we didn't just know our material down cold. We knew it to the point where we could add on to it. being able to voice our opinions with on-the-fly questioning from judges, pulling evidence from laws and court cases and events across history, made it so that we weren't just reading a book. We were improvising. And now, when I read the newspaper every morning, I think about this. I think about how much Cam taught me. I think about how she changed the way I see how our country works.
In the world in which I best know Benji Schessheim, he is a political scientist and a historian. He is the student who wants to examine the impact of political parties on elections and the merits of ranked choice voting. He is the student who knows dozens of immigration-related Supreme Court cases dating back into the 19th century. But then there is a Benji that thrives as a scientist and a programmer. He is the student who has been coding a speech recognition algorithm that is designed to understand stuttering. And he is the student who spent the summer studying cell replication enzymes. Benji's boundless curiosity with being a bit of a workaholic, I get the sense that Benji does not always get enough sleep, has led him to incredible academic success. But there is so much more to Benji than a high GPA and an interest in a wide variety of subjects. It is Benji the person that has always impressed me the most. He is confident, but not cocky. Benji is the person who has a stutter, but registered for the only section of AP US government with a public speaking component. He sat before the judges at the We the People National Constitution competition and owned the room. He informed them that he stutters and then proceeded to leave them with their mouths hanging open as he eloquently stated his opposition to the Department of Commerce's decision to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census, likening it to the 3/5 compromise in terms of the impact it would have on the Electoral College. His group came in second place out of 56 teams in the country on that day of the competition. He is passionate and driven. Benji has taken his stutter and harnessed it into something truly powerful. Taking on the role of an activist, Benji has spoken almost 24 times, including at the American Stuttering Institute Gala last year. And he wrote a compelling piece for NBC urging Joe Biden to be more open about his own stutter. His transition from a middle schooler who was afraid to speak up to the force to be reckoned with that Benji has become today is remarkable. Benji has evolved more in the 17 years of his life than most of us do in our whole lifetimes. And perhaps most important, Benji is kind and fun. He cares about his classmates, is always ready with a great pun to keep the mood light, and I discovered at the student dance last year at the We the People National Finals, can tear up a dance floor. During a speech last summer, Benji said, "What I have to say is too important to let anything stop me." And I agree. Benji is going to change the world. He is going to use it all. Coding and science and math and political philosophy and history. And he's going to use his courage and his drive and resilience. And he is going to be exactly what we need in this very uncertain and chaotic world. Benji, congratulations and best of luck to you at Duke next year.
Hi, I'm Harrison, and I want to introduce Mr. Jones, who was a very special teacher. He was my teacher for AP Chemistry my junior year, and he played a big part in my education and my interest in chemistry moving forward. In AP Chemistry, we cover a lot of very hard, complex topics, but he always made them very manageable for us, and he made the class really fun. And there was even a few sandwiches that went missing, which resulted in an explosion. So the point is, Mr. Jones is a great teacher who makes his classes really fun, a great guy, and I was very lucky to have him, and Staples is very lucky to have him.
I like to call Harrison Scholler by the name Harrison E. Scholler. The E stands for Emory. Harrison Emory Scholler. Doesn't that sound nice? Very distinguished. 4 years from now, when Harrison graduates with a degree in chemistry from Dartmouth, his name will be called during the ceremony, Harrison Emery Scholer. And the people in the audience will hear that name and they'll know there's a young man who's going places. Where exactly they won't know, but places, very important sorts of places. And I now ask each of you listening to think back to your own academic career. Were you a National Merit Scholarship finalist? No, you weren't, because your name isn't Harrison E. Scholer. Were you a National Chemistry Olympiad finalist? No, you weren't, because your name isn't Harrison E. Scholer. Did you study surface chemistry with Professor Chen and present 2 research projects on plasma surface treatment and infrared spectroscopy? No, you did not, because your name is not Harrison Emery Scholer. And probably also because you don't like chemistry, but that's on you. I like chemistry, and Ben really likes chemistry, and most importantly, Harrison really likes chemistry, and this speech is about him. Harrison likes chemistry so much that he served as the true linchpin of his lab group. His partners were often so sleep deprived from having stayed up until 3 a.m. the night before gaming or coding or whatever it is that they do, that they were more or less zombies. And zombies aren't something you want in the chem lab, except maybe in the movies. There it's not only okay, it would be desirable, but not in real life. In real life, you want someone with Harrison's brains and analytical skills running your lab group. Harrison was a true star in my chem class, and I know he'll be a true star at Dartmouth. He'll have no problem acing whatever devilry his chemistry professors throw at him. I don't know whether Harrison will go into law, science, medicine, or business, but I do know he'll be good at it. Harrison, I wish you the best in all your future endeavors. Stay cool, stay in touch.
Over the course of my years at Staples, I formed connections with many of my teachers, making it difficult to select just one to represent me. Ultimately, I decided to choose Mr. Jones, my AP chemistry teacher of the previous year, because of his significant impact on my high school experience and my post-high school plans. In general, I feel that he and I have many similarities. We both enjoy subjects like chemistry and physics, but also topics like music and Star Wars. I believe that Mr. Jones is a very effective teacher. The way he connects science to life and popular culture and explains complex concepts in a simple manner and shows the applications of theories enables his students to fully grasp an idea. I also really appreciated how Mr. Jones would always make himself available to answer any questions. I had about content within or beyond the course. In fact, it got to the point where my questions had to be moved to office hours because I simply asked too many. Finally, I was very honored that Mr. Jones agreed to write letters of recommendation to colleges for me, and that he granted me the Excellence in AP Chemistry Award last May. As I prepare to leave Staples and start my new chapter in college, I will be sure to bring many wonderful memories of Westport, but I will be sure to bring Mr. Jones's insights on life and his copyrighted chemistry notes.
Now, obviously, all the young men and women being honored here this year are excellent students. I've had the good fortune to teach several of them, though if you ask them, they might not think they've been so lucky. But I'm delighted and honored to have been asked by Mr. Ben Spector to speak on his behalf this evening. Ben was one of the students in my AP chemistry class last year. More than that, he was one of the really stellar students in the class. I mean, obviously, he's here, right? One does not simply become valedictorian at Staples unless one is pretty exceptional, and Ben is certainly that. Ben was one of those students who sat in AP Chem with most days a smile on his face. He listened attentively, he asked great questions, he gave great answers, and most importantly, he thought deep thoughts, very deep thoughts. Sometimes I didn't know what he was talking about, but he thought the deep thoughts. On test days, when most of his peers were stressed out about the test or their grades or about what the test would do to their grades or some combination thereof, Ben still appeared unperturbed. His zen-like calm was still there, as well it should have been. Ben is one of those few students for whom a minor challenge like a test, pshaw, 'tis nothing. Ben, you don't know this, but I've considered turning your name into a verb. To specter something means to experience great success at a task with virtually no visible exertion or diminution of cheerful demeanor. For example, I could say, Kate, you really spectered that test. Good job. When I hear stories on the news about students who are accepted to several Ivies, I think, pshaw. Why, I personally know a celebrity just like that. Ben's acceptances were so exceptional and so varied that he was able to say, nah, no thanks, to the University of Pennsylvania. And not many people can do that. One thing I feel I must mention, however, is that Ben wants to both major in chemical engineering and have a fun college experience. Despite Ben's superior math skills, I'm not sure he was paying attention during the lesson on Venn diagrams, because if you know anything about Venn diagrams, you know that the circles for majoring in chemical engineering and fun college experience, those circles do not intersect. But be that as it may. I do think if anybody could major in chemical engineering and still have some fun, it's Ben. Ben, in fact, not only do I think you can do that, I think you can specter it. So Ben, I wish you all the best. I wish you good luck at your college next year. I know you're going to do great and do great things. I hope you stay in touch, and thank you for asking me to do this for you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's High Honors celebration. We are so proud of the accomplishments of these 19 students. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. We've so enjoyed watching their successes over the last 4 years. And congratulations to the top 4%, these 19 students of the Staples High School class of 2020.